So much of what I believe in as a Kumu is getting trampled. Not good. Not good. You don't do that to people. Now listen, you can sit here and say, oh yeah, it was kind of hard. They were being nasty to you and all of that. So, get a grip. Get a grip, Kavika. You're not a wimp. But guys, this was serious stuff, and you're going to read about it in the book. And if you've read the prologue, you can see how many people got sick, how many people think bad things happened to people. People were going to meetings and going up to the bathroom here in Midkiff upstairs and throwing up. They were feeling so violated. And we couldn't do anything. We couldn't do anything, and we were vulnerable because we were young families, not so young families. I had 2 young children. I had a mortgage. I was taking care of my dad after my mom died. There was so much that was being risked. Okay, it was real. How could we have ever treated teachers the way we did? How could we have let teachers be sliding down the salary scale? We didn't train them properly often. We didn't pay them well. In the olden days, teachers were paid as much as lawyers and doctors. Now it's what, a half or a third or something. We should have done better, because when you do better by your teachers, you're doing better by your students, right? And here you're again, you're hearing Kumu Kavika and my beliefs on that area. I believe that. I believe we're going to look back and be shamed about we didn't do a good job recruiting the best and the brightest to this profession. So guys, our beautiful Hawaiian children need you. We don't need lawyers, we don't need doctors, we get. We need beautiful teachers who teach from their hearts as well as their heads and their hands. A school is about students and Kumu working together to prepare them for the world and to make the world a better place. That's the bottom line for me, and I believe that. I will believe that until my last little kumu breath. That's important that I tell you that, because Kamehameha doesn't do that. Kamehameha approaches it differently, saying, hey guys, we run the school, calm, do this, do that, submit your grades. We never have conversations about better teaching. We never have conversations about what we really should be doing for Hawaiians in a formal sense.
So we need to ask ourselves, why am I here? What are the values and principles that I bring to my work and that I bring to my roles and responsibilities? And never lose sight of those. Why am I here? Now, what happens sometimes is that we find that in doing our roles and responsibilities, the values that we have and the principles that we operate with in our lives can seem disconnected. For me, the best job a person can have is to find themselves in a job where who they are and how they live their life is connected with the job. I could never imagine myself in a situation where I was doing work just to get paid, and the work that I was doing was not connected to who I am as a person. Otherwise your life is disconnected. Who you are in real life should also be who you are in your job and how you do your job. So, in terms of the issue of choices and being a good soldier, you constantly come up in situations where you have to process in your mind, okay, I'm being asked to do something, and does what I'm being asked to do align with my goals and principles, or my values and principles? Sometimes you have to swallow, and say it doesn't align, but this is not a big enough thing for me where I'm willing to go to the mat and put it all on the line. And so you swallow, and you might even try to influence the system and change how things happen, working within the system. And so I will tell you folks that for me, even now in my job as principal, on a daily basis, I'm having to make those kinds of decisions. Since the beginning of the school year, I found myself in situations where I have to ask myself, okay, these things that we're being asked to do within the institution, I may not agree with them, but as a leader in the institution that has responsibility for supporting those things, am I willing to compromise on this? And so it's constantly, in my thinking, it's constantly something that goes on with your mind as well as your now working together.
Gary and I organized a meeting, and I was in Hawaiian 3, and I got called out. Busted. And I was called into the office. Got to sit on a little bench outside for a while. I was so bad. I was naughty, right? Treated just like a bad student. Sat there with Gary. And then Rocky Freitas was there. He had come up from Kaihaʻopua, or from administration, because he was vice president at that point in time. Okay. And they gave us a fairly difficult time, but they let us go ahead with it. And we invited them to come and join us. Because what else do? You say, join us. That's the way Nā Kumu worked.
individuals who worked for the school have questionable loyalties or act questionably. Some of them in very high places, some of them who are still close to us even today. And it's an interesting dilemma to examine whether or not they were really good soldiers or did they need to do this just in order to survive. The principal of the school at that time was one of these individuals. He was put in a very, very difficult situation. But some of us began questioning where his loyalties laid.
This is Tony Ramos. That's a name that some of you know because you're reading his words now. But just as a clarification, Tony Ramos was the principal at that time.
So there was an actual event in the book where Tony was asked to bring students down to a trustee's office. And if you think about that, he could have made a choice at that time and protected those students, but he took those two students down, and in my mind, he exposed them to undue harm. That's one thing that you might think about in terms of good soldiering. Was he being a good soldier in doing what he was being told, or was he not a good soldier because his ultimate responsibility, and that was to protect students, was not fulfilled?
It sometimes comes down to the question of loyalty, about loyalty to friends. Because Mr. Ramos and I were very good friends. The controversy tested our friendship. And we found ourselves on different sides, so to speak, in the controversy. And he was my boss. I had to make a choice of whether or not I was a good soldier and toed the line in terms of doing what he expected of me as regards to the controversy, or did I need again to live by my values and principles and do what my heart told me was the right thing to do. We use the term behaving with wonno a lot at our school, and so I think it kind of becomes sort of cliche. On doing the right thing, but there are times I think when doing the right thing and being wonno will really get tested in terms of what that means in terms of the choices that we have to make.
me, I was threatened with lots of jail prior to that. I was actually on the continent visiting family, and I get a call from my principal saying, "Oh no, you might not be able to bring me back next year." And so I was like, "Oh, what is this about?" Well, they're concerned about you raising questions. So to me, we were beyond that at that point. I mean, I was. We were at a point in my mind where it wasn't okay to continue in the way it was. And as a faculty, as individuals, we had decided to say something about that. We weren't clear where that was going to go. We were hoping it would just be changed so that we could create an environment where you could have difficult conversations and not have somebody cut off because they had less power.
I am here because I'm loyal to the mission of Kamehameha Schools. That's my primary loyalty. My primary loyalty is not to people, okay? I am loyal to people, but that's not why I'm here. The driving force for me here is to use my life and my job to contribute to the achievement of Hawaii's mission. That's what my loyalty is to, okay? So in a hierarchy of things, that's my greatest loyalty. Secondly, my loyalty is to you folks as students. Whatever I do should have you folks and your interests at heart, okay? Third, my loyalty is to our faculty and staff. To be able to support them, to enable them to do their jobs in support of Kamehameha's mission, as well as in your best interests and in service to you. So those are you know, three areas of loyalty.
depending on how you interpret wrong or right, I think we're doing the right thing.
No, we were.
But we weren't necessarily always following the directives of people who had more authority. And I think, to me, that's the lesson. What's pono? You know, what is the right thing to be doing in a given situation? Any situation. You know, hanging out with your friends, somebody smoking, is that the right thing to do for you? Maybe not. So if you say no, then you're going against the norm of that particular community at that particular moment. So it's not always easy, one, to figure out what is the right thing, the pono thing to do, and then secondly, it's even harder to sometimes do it. And I think there was a growing understanding that the right thing to do was to speak up against what was happening and to work towards change. And sometimes that took stepping outside of the directive of the authority at the time, because the directive wanted to keep the status quo. They didn't want to hear a different voice. They didn't want to be pushed back. So in that sense, I think we did the right thing.
We did.
I think we
did.
Yeah. But it wasn't what we were being.
And I was going to say that some of the people that didn't do what we did were doing what was the right thing for them,
them.
even though we saw it as the wrong thing. For example, our principal, who at that time would not participate in any of the things we did, even though I sometimes pleaded with him to do the right thing. But what he was doing was siding with the trustees because he saw that as the right thing. Now, I'm going to say something, this will not be popular with a lot of people. Depends on what your religious beliefs are, so this is me. But I believe the Bible tells us that we are not to stand up against authority, that we're to pray for the authorities, that they are there for a reason, and we're not to be just openly rebelling against them or doing anything. And I felt at that time that there were some people on our campus, people that I highly respected, who had that same belief I have, but who kept to it. I didn't keep to it. And I later on had a lot of spiritual issues about whether I should, and I needed a lot of counseling actually from people that I respected, telling me that what I did was really, there was enough evil involved that it was all right for us to do that. But there were some very deeply religious people on this campus that did not get involved, and I think it was for that reason. And I respected them for that, even though they were people whose voices would have been very powerful had they been doing what we were doing.
One time when I felt that it was necessary to stop being a good soldier, and that was it actually started in December 1997. Trustees and leaders made it very clear that you, Julian Ako, as an administrator, you cannot be a member of Nā Kumu, Kamehameha. So we were told to as being part of being a good soldier, to not get involved with Nā Kumu, the organization. And we tried to find other ways to compromise and make work around that. So we formed, I don't know if the book mentions this, but we formed a group that was called the Faculty and Administration Group. And I ended up being asked to be the chair of that. And so what we're trying to do is find a way to work around the system and without us administrators being a part of Nā Kumu, figuring out a way to still work together with faculty members. Eventually, the trustees banned that group. They told us you have to dissolve that group for whatever reason. biggest fear is that this could happen again. And that's why it's important that the book got written, that you folks have a class like this, because we have to ensure that the mistakes that were made in the 1990s never happen again, and threaten to disrupt and potentially destroy the institution.
A lot has come back and is kind of back the same. And that's an issue, guys. You fight the good fight, you think you win a battle, you sit back and cross your legs and have a cigarette or whatever your thing is. And then watch out, they start creeping in, those rats. Ooh. And we had conversations about some of those rats that we weren't able to get rid of, and we should have. In hindsight, we were talking about that yesterday. We should have cleaned house, like they're doing in Tunisia now, in Cairo. The revolution didn't work, so they're going to have one more revolution. Our revolution worked in some ways, but so much has slipped back into the old mode. Ask the people who are here. So that's kind of what humans do. So get used to that idea and be maka'ala, be vigilant.